Oh, y'all ready for this thing to start? Say yeah. Yeah. Ready for this thing to start? Say yeah. Yeah. No, we can't start. We have to have a sacrificial teller. We're going to bring up this brother right here. Give it up for Mr. Dean Armstrong, y'all. Give it up, y'all.
In the early 1970s, I worked for a radio dispatched cab company in Phoenix, Arizona. I was both a dispatcher and a driver. One night while I was at the dispatch desk, I got a phone call. I picked up the phone and a man over the phone said, "I'm a polar bear," and hung up. Okay, I told my boss, this guy just said that. He said, "Don't worry about it, we get prank calls all the time." About 45 minutes later, I got another call. "I'm a polar bear." "Well, I'm the King of England." And he hung up. That's what I said back. So I'm thinking, and I told my boss, I said, "What's going on here?" He said, "Don't worry about it. It's like those prank calls we get all the time. You know, is your refrigerator running? Well, you better go catch it. Do you keep Prince Charles in a can? Well, you better go open it." Okay, I thought, okay, this is going to be one of those nights. About an hour later, I get another call. This time the voice is a little drunker and a little angrier. "I'm a polar bear." Okay, hung up the phone. I'm saying, okay, what am I supposed to do? My boss said, "Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. It's not any big deal." Okay, a little while later, I got a call again. This voice says, "I'm a polar bear," and hung up. Well, I don't know what's going on. It's getting on 11:30 at night. It's really kind of crazy. About 15 minutes later, I got a call back, another call. This time it was a guy who said, "I'm the bartender at the Polar Bar in downtown Phoenix. I have a guy who's been trying to call you for over 3 hours. Would you please send a cab?" I immediately sent a cab. I'm Dean Armstrong. Thank you.
All right, a sacrificial teller is someone who comes up and shares a poem to kind of warm up the judges, right? I haven't pulled from the hat. That means that person is not a part of the competition. He's just someone who's warming up the judges so we can get it going, okay? All right, that being said, judges on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up high. Hold them up high. We have a low score of a 6.5. We have a 7.5, a 7.5, a 7.6, and a 9. Give it up for Dean, everybody. And this is the Story Slam. We got it? We got it now? We understand? I think it's self-explanatory. And now, we're going to do our thing. Remember that the competition is closed. If you were not here before Dean performed, that is it. We have to go with what we have in the hat. All right. I have the hat. I'm going to shake them up a little bit. There it is right there. I'm not going to look. I'll pull your name. It is random order. You could go first, could go last. If you have it on a device, already have it pulled up and be ready to go. That way you're coming up here with that energy. You don't lose any momentum. Again, folks, I am Mike Gwynn. I appreciate y'all. I am from East Texas. Do not hold against me. There it is right there. There it is right there. From Jacksonville. Do the math up in there. All right. A little bit more about me. Undergrad, social work, Stephen F. Austin. Master's social work, UT Arlington, worked a long time as a child abuse investigator for the state of Texas. Came in one day from a long day in the field. It was a rough day, y'all. I just sit down at my desk, put my head down, and I started crying. When I lifted my head, I had a pen in my hand. And the very first thing I wrote was, "What good is my master's degree if I can't be the master of me?" After that, everything came pouring out, and here I am, 25 years later. There it is right there. All right. All right, here it is, your first teller in this year's Texas Storytelling Festival Story Slam will be, give it up for John Hale, everybody!
It was my first day on the job for that summer. I've been working part-time in the evenings, and I was only 15 years old, so now I got to work a whole day and get a big paycheck at the end of the week. The superintendent must have thought I was one of the regulars because he told me, "You and Hank go over there and fill that hole." The city had just been out and they had to fix this water main that was about 10 feet deep, and it was one of those big steel pipes. And so when that pipe burst, the water went all over the area. There was mud everywhere. There was puddles of water, and it was just a mess. Now they fixed that big steel pipe, and they were ready to leave and have somebody fill it in. So our superintendent said, that's all right. Hank and John will fix it. Well, Hank was out getting parts, and I saw that big hole, and I saw that backhoe, and I said, I can operate that backhoe. I mean, it's just a couple pedals and the shifter right there on the steering wheel. So I did. I got up in there without inspecting the backhoe. I just got straight up on there in the cab, and I started figuring it out. I'm like, okay, I got this. Backed it up, and I started scooping up that dirt, that mud, the water, whatever it was, and put it in that big hole, 10 foot deep, 10 foot across, 10 feet wide, and it started filling up. And that area started looking pretty good. All the mud was starting to disappear. All those piles of dirt and all the puddles of water was moving away. And I had that hole filled up. And the last little bit, I was able to get some of the fresh dirt and pick that up and start packing it on top of all that mud. And now I have about a foot of dirt on top of that mud. And I started packing it down with the bucket of the backhoe. And I was feeling pretty good. I got this all figured out now. And once I had that down, it looked pretty good. So I thought, I'm going to pull out, and I'm going to use the back tires that are big, huge air tires to really tamp it down. And I started doing that left and right. All of a sudden, boom! It started to sink down into that like it was quicksand. And it started sinking. And all I could do was scramble out of the cab and get out there on that backhoe. And I was up there on the bucket when it hit that steel pipe, and a fountain of water blew up, and it was all over everywhere. Water spraying, mud everywhere, water puddles everywhere. And I learned, if you ain't trained, you aren't authorized, don't get on the backhoe.
One more time for John. Give it for John, everybody. All right. Let's see if you liked it as much as I did. I'm not a judge. I'm just saying. All right, judges, for John, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold 'em up high. We have a low score of a 7.0. We have a 7.5, a 7.7, a 7.8, and an 8.9. Give it up for John, everybody. All right. That's right here. I got the numbers right here. All right. If you're ready for the next teller, say, mm-hmm. Ready for the next teller, say, mm-hmm. Coming up next, and I hope you're ready, give it up for Justin, everybody. Come on, Justin.
Thanks. I've never done this, but I'm going to quickly try to tell you about my favorite chicken, Marshall Dill Pickle. And she taught me the difference between letting go and giving up. So I remember the day that my son's mom left a couple years ago. She was like this, you know. That's the only thing I actually remember about the conversation. But she left these 4 chickens, baby chickens. That was like one of the last things they did. And so I was determined to like raise these baby chickens. And they got to be big, fat chickens. And Marshall Dill Pickle, my son named her, was my favorite one. And this feral street rooster came around and started like corrupting them and teaching them to like wander the neighborhood. And eventually they'd come home. They'd like run home at night, you know. And so anyways, one day me and my son got home, and the chickens all ran up, but Marshall Dill Pickle was not there. So we searched and searched, and days went by, and through the fence I heard these chicken sounds through my back fence, and I peeped through the slats, and there was Marshall Dill Pickle like imprisoned by my redneck neighbors in the back. And so I went over there and I confronted them, and I was like, I'm gonna fight for this chicken, you know. And I was like, hey, you have a chicken in your backyard, it's my chicken, you know. and this guy was like shirtless with like, when I got there, he was laying on a trampoline with no shirt on, and he was like, "Those are my brother's chickens." And I was like, "Well, that's my chicken, and just, you know, you can give it back to me, and your brother can settle with me later, you know." And so he didn't. We just stared at each other, and eventually he took the, he let me back there, and I took my chicken, and I went home. And I was like, "Good day, sir." And Marshall Dill Pickle, like most chickens, eventually she died. She got eaten by a stray dog, and after the day after Christmas. And so me and my son were going through all the feathers and everything, and we were crying and everything, and then I opened my hands like this, and my son put an egg in my hand. So now I've got 15 more chickens, you know, after some years.
One more time, y'all. He really plucked that, didn't he? All right. And under time, I love it. All right, judges. Folks, if you just joined us, this is the Texas Storytelling Festival Story Slam. It is wild, it is crazy, it is all for you. We appreciate you, man. My name is Mike Gwynn, and that's all you need to know. All right, judges, on the count of 3, 4. This wonderful brother Justin. 1, 2, 3. Hold him up high. We have a low score of a 6.9. We have a 7, a 7.2, a 7.5, and an 8.5. Give it up for Justin. Yeah, shake him up, guys, shake him up. I got all this. Yeah, there you go. All right, coming up next, we have show some love for, give it up for Emmanuel A. Garcia.
At the peak of COVID-19, the university I was attending sent all of its students back home, which for me meant an epic adventure awaited. Because going home was a 12-and-a-half-hour drive from Denton all the way down south to the Rio Grande Valley. And I made this trip, oh yes, on a Greyhound bus. Now, for those of you who are lucky enough to be amateurs in the inner workings of interstate transportation, a Greyhound bus is sort of like a petri dish on wheels. It is a mobile cavalcade of faces from all walks of life, speed dating their ways from city to city in one of the more affordable and least comfortable ways possible. Yes, as contagious as the entire setup truly was, my biggest concern while on the Greyhound bus was having someone catch wind of my personality. Because any sort of microscopic breadcrumb of who I was, the holographic bookmark of Leonard Cohen in my reading material, the 2 hours worth of stroopwafel cookies in my backpack, anything could be used to open up the floodgates to a brand spanking new friendship. A friendship with a stranger that I did not ask for. Friends like RJ, who we picked up in Dallas and who spent 8 hours right by my side. He was traveling of 2 very heavily pregnant pit bulls on a quest given to him by God, or so he says, to stop Elon Musk from opening up a wormhole to another dimension via the SpaceX launch site in Brownsville, Texas. RJ. Oh, he was telling me things like, Sonny, you need to understand something. You look a computer in the eyes for long enough, you can see an anagram for doomsday behind that screen. Classic RJ. And although RJ sported an aroma to him that I could only describe as bootleg Sauvage by Dior, mixed with faint hints of Meat Stick by Slim Jim, he also sported a passion and compassion for his fellow man. Heck, he even offered to give me one of the pit bull puppies once they finally popped out, after he first overthrew the United States Postal Service first, naturally. But after 12 long hours of traveling the open roads, I finally made it home, only to catch COVID-19 as soon as I touched down. And while I was quarantining in a La Quinta Inn completely across town, I thought fondly on all the time I had spent snuggling up to some of the most modest maniacs in all of Texas. And it wasn't until I was completely alone in a La Quinta Inn, throwing up broken Bible verses into a toilet bowl seat, listening to the sounds of my lungs deflate in real time, terrified of closing my eyes for what could be the last time ever. It wasn't until all of that the idea of just one more cramped bus ride, pitbull slobber on my legs or not, it sent a wave of comfort throughout my entire being, and it gave me just a little bit of hope. Thank you.
All right, judges. Again, welcome, y'all. We always have fun here every year. All right. For Emmanuel, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold on up high. We have a low score of an 8.5. We have a 9. We have a 9.3, a 9.8, and a 9.9. Get it for Emmanuel. Coming up next. Did I lose one? That's the one. No, I'm kidding. I'll put it back in, shake it back up. All right. Y'all ready for the next teller? Say, yeah. Coming up next, we have, please show some love. Give it up to Haley Turner, everybody.
I moved away from my hometown in Dallas to rural Tyler, East Texas. I was feeling homesick and had been cooped up for a few days, so I went over to the patch of acreage where I most often found refuge. My only concern in my walk of solitude was encountering the infamous, aggressive, wild pigs that were notorious for overrunning the land. As I was clearing my senses, I walked across the open field towards the woods, further out of sight for where anybody can see me. The longer I walked, the more brave and confident I felt because I didn't see any threats. And then I kneeled down to the grass and heard a rustling nearby. I turned around to see a wild pig darting towards me from the woods, and I bolted. All the years of track prepared me for this very moment. I engaged perfect form as I hurdled quick, long strides over stray branches and tall weeds like a bounding gazelle. My breath fell into a steady rhythm, and my heart pounded against my chest. With my eyes fastened forward, I cut through the field and heard unified swine squeals taunting me from the distance in the woods. I'm pretty sure the pig had the very same experience as me. Looking back on the event, I realized this was an appropriate reaction to fear. I encountered a real and physical threat to danger, and my body responded instinctively to protect myself. For the entirety of my life, I struggled with paralyzing fear from things that posed absolutely no threat to my physical safety, and this experience showed me when the fear response is necessary and when it's not, and thus began the shift in my relationship with fear. I felt more confident now, and I wanted to defy fear, so, of course, I encountered on more walks to find these pigs and prove to myself that I was brave, but alas, no pigs. In a desperate attempt, I called out for them. Here, pigs, suey, suey, suey. I was instead welcomed with a herd of hungry cows who came stampeding towards me. I couldn't outrun them and had to take refuge in a cluster of thorny trees. I was trapped. They just stood there and stared at me, and I knew as soon as I would try to make a break for it, they would headbutt me until I was dead. Apparently, that's also the same call you make to cows at feeding time. The day finally came when I encountered those elusive hogs. I sat up on a fence and just quietly observed them from a distance, watching a mama and her 3 babies nuzzle through the ground for food. These beastly creatures were no longer scary and threatening, and I appreciated the purpose they served in my life. This impromptu initiation into East Texas taught me to look at fear in a new way, showing me the strength that was in me all along. I'll never forget that moment of connection with a wild animal that led to this transformation and growth. And now whenever I hear people talk about how those hogs are a relentless nuisance that need to be eliminated, I stand up for them. I love those misunderstood brutes.
All right, judges, all right. For Haley on the count of 3. Y'all enjoying yourself? Yeah. All right, there you go. This is an excellent opportunity to give tellers who are not a part of the main part of the festival a chance to stretch those stories out, okay? Cool? All right, for Haley on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up high. We have a low score of an 8.6. A 9, a 9, a 9.3, and a 9.7. Get up for Haley. We'll try to lose one this time. All right. By the way, Haley is last year's defending slam champion. Give it up for Haley. All right. Here we go. Next person to the mic is, y'all get up for Mr. Hank, y'all. Come on, Hank. Rubric. You got it.
We all know that moments frozen in time really do create great stories, but I didn't realize how those times can really touch your soul and never let go until I did a master class last year at this festival with Burnette Nason. The exercise was, we're supposed to think of a car that somebody owned in our family, where it was parked, its color, its year, and to look at that as a very special image, as a connection to somebody else. So it was easy for me. I lived with my grandparents, so I thought about my grandfather's car. It was a 1955 Ford Fairlane, white, bright white, very bright, clean. It was a spotless car, just like he was, and it was parked in a driveway, a circular driveway, under a beautiful, beautiful oak tree. We were asked to look into the driver's side and then the passenger side in the window. So I closed my eyes and I looked in that driver's side, and I saw a steering wheel that you couldn't even move, because in those days you didn't have power steering. You get a hernia just looking at it. And I couldn't believe you could even drive, and there was a very thick cushion that he had to sit on so he could look over the windshield. Then I went over to the passenger side. And it was a moment I'll never forget. I saw crumbs from crackers that were sitting on the seat and the floor that my grandmother had. She put in her purse every time when they drove 1.5 miles down the street to see her sister, my Aunt Ruthie. My grandmother was in a Stutthof concentration camp, and she knew what it was like to almost starve to death. So every place she went, she took crackers and put it in her purse. You know, sometimes we think about stories, and stories can answer questions like, who am I, right? But when I looked at those cracker crumbs on the seat, on the floor, it answered the question that I always asked, and that is, what am I? Thank you.
All right, judges. Remember that there's water over there, water. Hey, if you don't mind, y'all, give it up for security over there, y'all. Give it up for security in the house. He's smiling. All right, and give it up for our photographer and cameraman and press in the house. Give it up for them, everybody. All right, there you go, there you go. And give it up for UNT in the house, y'all. UNT is in the house. All right, for Hank, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold him up high. We have a low score of a 7.0. We have an 8.0, an 8.4, an 8.9, and a 9.4. Give it up for Hank, everybody. And at the end, what we do, if we have time, we're going to allow some of you who have books and some other things you got going on, we want you to come up here and tell us about it, okay? We don't want to lose this opportunity as well. All right, y'all ready for the next? Y'all ready for the next teller? Say yeah. Yeah. Coming up next, please welcome, and I hope you're ready. Give it up for Miss Jessica McCune, everybody.
Once, in a pond, lived a family of grubs. They were happy, but they had one question. Why did someone take the call to climb up to the top of the lily pad and not come down and explain what was going on the other side? So they made a pact, a promise, and they all agreed if they ever climbed up the stalk of the lily pad, they would come back down and explain what was going on the other side. Sure enough, one of those grubs climbed up the stalk of the lily pad, climbed up on top. Oh, she was gorgeous. She became a dragonfly. All of the colors of the rainbow were in her wings. And she flew back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she could see her family of grubs and her grub buds. They were there. And she'd land. And she'd try to get down there, and she couldn't do it. She flew back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because she was going to keep her promise. But as she landed, she could not get to the bottom of the pond. And at the point of exhaustion, after flying back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, she said, would they even recognize me? Would they believe me? Because I look so different. I'm so beautiful. And everything is beautiful. When we miss those who are gone, we're not sure that they're not flying back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, wanting us to know the beauty they live in every day. That story was given to me by my great aunt, Virginia, from East Texas. And you know, in East Texas, almost everybody's your aunt and uncle. And in Groveton, there were 8 siblings and 1 brother married into the Spence family in Crockett, 3 women. And immediately the kids, grandkids, great-grandkids had about 22 aunts and uncles. Virginia had just lost the love of her life, over 60 years, John Duty Collins. He had been as brave fighting aggressive leukemia as he was flying fighter planes in World War II. She gave up the family house and moved into a 1-story condo, and she decorated with dragonflies. And as she sent out that change of address, the story from Walter Dudley Calvert was included about the dragonfly. Y'all clap for Virginia and John Duty Collins and Walter Dudley Calvert.
What a beautiful story. All right, we're going to keep it going. On the count of 3 for Jessica. 1, 2, and 3. Hold them up high. We have a low score of an 8.5. We have an 8.9. An 8.9. We have a 9 and a 9. Give it up for Jessica. Go on, Jessica. All right. We're going to keep it going, y'all. Again, and at the end, y'all, we also ask that all the storytellers come up and take a group picture, all right? Thank you so much. All right, coming up next, that might be it right there. We have, give it up for, is it Noonie Burnette? Noonie! Give it for Noonie, everybody!
In 2015, I moved to Australia seeking independence and personal growth. Looking back to that time of my life, I think the soundtrack that perfectly describes it is Living La Vida Loca. And let me tell you why. Despite the love for that beautiful, beautiful country, Sydney welcomed me with a cyclone. And let me tell you, I'm not a stranger to natural disaster. I was born and raised in Chile, so I know tsunamis and earthquakes. It was a great start. After that, I got bitten by a giant spider in my mouth. And if that is not enough, not long after, I got my appendix removed. So yeah, 2015 was nothing short of extraordinary. And life down under continued like that until my very last day, January 26th. It was summer, so my German friend and I decided to go to Bondi Beach, a very famous spot in Sydney. I was leaving the country, so I had already packed all my clothes. So I wasn't properly attired in what Australians refer to as swimmers. No swimsuit. But anyway, my friend and I venture into the water. Before I continue, I have to tell you about Bondi Rescue, which is the Australian response to Baywatch. But it is a reality show. So picture this. Very attractive lifeguards, maybe some sharks, and that Aussie accent that I love. And I remember thinking, whoa, are they really filming people drowning? Are they showing sharks too? Ew. Let's go back to my last day in Sydney, Australia. Everything is looking fantastic. The water seems fine until I start seeing the shoreline very, very far away. My friend, nowhere in sight. Panic sets in. And to make everything worse, no sharks involved, by the way, I realized that I have lost my top. Oh no. Out of the blue, I hear this Aussie lifeguard. He's on a jet ski saying, jump, jump on the board, jump on the board. And there is me, topless and drowning. And I say, no, 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 I'm not jumping. I'm not showing my breasts on TV. Luckily, he said, no worries, mate. We're not filming today. If this is not an account that year in Sydney was the greatest of my life, that same year I met my now Texan husband, we've been married for 10 years. And living in Australia was great, but in Texas is the greatest adventures, y'all. Thank you. My name is Burnette.
All right, all right, all right. We're going to keep it going. Judges, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. For Noonie, we have a low score of an 8 point. Is that a 5? 5. 8.6. A 9.2. A 9.2 and a 9.7. Get it for Noonie. All right. Coming up next, y'all, we're winding it down. I know you want to be here all day, but we got to go. All right. Y'all give it up for the one and only Miss Vicki.
It was a Friday night. The dinner had been set on the table, and the table informally set. It was a husband and wife, and she was 27 years old, extremely pregnant. This was their third attempt. They prayed so deliberately, so unceasingly for this miracle to take place. You see, the first child had aborted itself in a miscarriage. The second child was born, and they named her Tanya Rashawn. She weighed in at a measly 4 ounces, but she was only here for 21 hours because God called her back to heaven, even though she had been on earth. She's back again. But she stayed here long enough for the hospital to document her existence, so you could see the little bitty tiny feet on the back of the birth certificate, the little feet that played hopscotch from heaven to earth and back to earth, back to heaven again. Now, a couple of years later, the mother, pregnant again with a third child, and one again that they prayed so much for. This would be the miracle child. And she was stubborn because the doctor had told her, you might want to stop having children. And then she would hear the voices of the ladies, her mother, her sister, the church members, her friends saying, now you know, God said every woman ain't built to birth children. The interesting part about that was that these were the people that she had solicited prayers for this birth. Well, back at the dinner table, being very uncomfortable, she sat there as her husband served her smoked pork chops. Yes. And after a few seconds into the meal, her birth process began. Yes, the water broke. And they rushed to the hospital. It was Hillcrest Hospital in Waco, Texas. And about 3 hours later, they gave birth, and they named the child Viola. Yes, she was so perfect. She weighed in at 7 pounds, 6 ounces, and 21 inches long. Yes. And she was documented on the birth certificate as coming in on August the 30th. And she was finally the child who would later play hopscotch here on earth. She was born under the sign of pork chop.
Everybody go, oh. All right, we got work to do. On the count of 3 for Miss Vicki. 1, 2, 3. We have a low score of an 8.5. We have an 8.9, a 9, a 9.6, and a 9.7. Give it up, y'all, for Miss Vicki. All right. Y'all ready for the next poet? Say, mm-hmm. Coming up next, please welcome Miss Brenda McWilliams, everybody.
I was 10 years old when I caught a pig and made him my pet. That July 4th, my family camped as usual on the Sabine River, and the property owner, Mr. Harvey, let his hogs just run loose all over the river bottom. I had my eye on an old sow and her large litter of little pigs. I wanted one of those little pigs so bad. I asked, Mr. Harvey, can I have one of those little pigs? And he said, well, girl, if you can catch the damn thing, you can have it. Just don't let that old sow get after you. I watched and waited for the right time to catch my pig. On our last afternoon in camp, that mama sow bedded him under a tree and just left him. Now or never. Crawling on my all fours under the low brush, I reached out and grabbed the first little pig I touched, backed out of those bushes, and turned and hightailed it back to the camp house. My heart was pounding, my face on fire, and my little pig woke up and started a ruckus just as I bounded up the camp house steps. I took Harvey, I named him after the landowner, took him home, bottle fed him, bathed, powdered, and perfumed him daily. He was the best smelling pig ever, and he slept in a sweet potato crate next to my bed. He became my constant playmate. He followed me around like I was his mama. You see, Harvey was all mine when everything else in the family was hand-me-downs or shared. Harvey outgrew the potato crate, and we moved him to the old dog pen in the backyard. Some months later, one evening, Daddy followed me out to feed Harvey. Now, that was something Daddy never did. We stood watching Harvey. Daddy put his hand on my shoulder. We've got to do something with Harvey. My heart clutched because I had an idea what do something meant. Still, what do you mean do something? Now, I felt some sympathy from Daddy that night, but his words and his intent were clear. We can't feed him forever. We can sell him and someone else will butcher and eat him, or we can do it ourselves. He's yours, it's up to you. The sale is on Saturday. The next day, I told Daddy, if anyone's going to eat Harvey, Daddy, it'll be us and not some strangers. Saturday morning, I gave Harvey a tearful goodbye and a scratch on his back and helped load him into the trailer and watched them drive away. Looking back, catching and raising Harvey was a big deal in the story of me. I was a quiet, compliant, fearful little kid, and having Harvey gave me a sense of courage and confidence and ownership responsibility. And in letting Harvey go, I learned a hard lesson for life that has served me well. There are and will continue to be circumstances in our life where there are no good answers, there are no better choices. We simply have to take the best next step forward in our lives. I had no idea the growing up I was going to do when I made Harvey my pig. Thank you. My name is Brenda McWilliams.
Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate it. All right. We got want to remind everybody about that 3-minute time limit. They want to let you know. All right, cool. All right, for Brenda on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up high. We have a low score of a 9.5. We have a 9.5, a 9.5, a 9.7, and a 9.8. Give it up for Brenda. Again, keep in mind that we have a 3-minute time limit. If you go over 3:10:01, we start docking points, so that could affect your score. And that was in the rules, okay? Cool? All right, y'all ready for the next poet? Next teller. Say yeah. Yeah. Coming up next, we have, hold on, need 2 hands. Miss Debbie Waddell. Give it up for Debbie.
There I am, running from those fat girl shamers. My 8-year-old body couldn't stop crying. My mother did not know what to do. And then she announced I would visit my nonna-grandmother. As I walked into the house my grandfather built, I could smell long ago and no cement playgrounds. Nonna-grandmother, in her bird-like body, sat in the big easy chair next to the window. We talked without words, hugged each other round about, laughed until my hope pulsed inside out of me. You see out there, the theater yard where your mom and her sisters would put on shows? If you look closely, there's a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. All I see is trees and grass and flowers. No little red house. You might go out and take a closer look. Look, I think you'll find a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. The birds were splashing, the water singing, the grass tickling my toes, but no little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. I felt happy. I started to dance. Oh, I ran into a tree. An apple fell on my head. A red apple. A little red house with no doors and no windows. But apples don't have stars inside. I found a little red house with no doors and no windows, but apples don't have stars inside. Let's go star hunting. If you cut your apple from the stem down, no star. But if you cut it side to side, a star will appear. Now this star is like the one you have shining inside. It's there to remind you, no matter what happens, that you're strong, you're smart, you're creative, you're special. That was a growing up visit. I still cut my apple from side to side. It's amazing what star possibilities will do.
All right, let's get those scores. Thank you, Debbie. All right, on the count of 3 for Debbie. 1, 2, 3. We have and remember now, we have that little time penalty thing if you go over 3:10:01. All right, it's 0.5 penalty for every 10 seconds over. All right, we have a low score of an 8.4. We have a 9.2. We have a 9.8. 9. I take that back. A 9.8. A 9.9. And a 9.9 for Debbie. Get it for Debbie, everybody. All right. We're winding down. Remember now, 3 minutes, and I'm recording everything. All right. Give it up for some money. Give us some money, everybody. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute, some money. Wait a minute. Some money.
I know this older lady who left her soul in every bar stool across the city. She appeared to be this beautiful shade of lost with just a hint of recognition. Her eyes told this alluring story, and I was interested in finding it out. The night I met her, she told me that she dreamt of being a musician. She told me everything that led to her pain and demolition. The bartender pops in. "Excuse me, may I get you ladies anything?" "2 double shots of Hennessy on the rocks, please," I replied. Meanwhile, the woman continued to confide in me like a new generation guardian angel that wasn't going to exile her for being marked with a little sin, for being herself, for being hurt, for being lost, for being broken. And he broke me. She continued, "He broke me." And I don't know which broke my heart more. The stone dead look that appears on a human being's face after the 5th double shot of Hennessy, or the pain that lingered in the air when she spoke of him and said his name. Mark. He decided that after 8 years, I wasn't the one for him. He was an investment banker that body traces of bad boy. He loved having control. I gave that to him. I constantly find myself grieving the love he once let me own. He was my high school sweetheart, the love of my life. I gave up my dreams so that he could live his, and over time he just became cruel to me. I loved him anyway, and he started cutting off his phone when I called and would flip every argument around and make things all of my fault. He went days without coming home or even checking in, and I stayed there. I cooked and I cleaned. I put up with his late night missteps when he came home with another woman scent all over him. I dealt with this chaos, and he decided that I wasn't the one for him. And I don't know which broke my heart more. Watching this woman be consumed with thoughts about a person who probably used their love as a synonym for unrequited at some point, or the stone dead look that appears on a human being's face after the 8th double shot of Hennessy. This time, I confided in her, as if I found the other half of my heart in her honesty. The night we met, I told her that I was sure of 2 things. I was in love, and I was a writer. An artist in love. That sounds so romantic. And she said it with such a splash of naivety in her voice. I explained how thinking of you was the hardest thing I've ever had to do sometimes, how writing your name in a tragic love story takes every piece of my sanity in moments. I explained how it felt to speak of you in metaphors and similes, but I told her I had to because the remnants of our love remained in my poetry. I hold the weight of life's experiences in the lines that I write, and it never gets easier. And is that why you drink Hennessy? To escape what that all feels like? She asked with curiosity running through her drunken vocal cords. One reason of many, I suppose. And after that night, we both started leaving our souls in every bar stool across the city.
Thank you so much. All right. I love all the new poets, all the new storytellers we've had today. It's been amazing, y'all. Welcome again to the Texas Storytelling Festival's Story Slam. All right, we got work to do. On the count of 3 for some money. 1, 2, 3. Hold up my pie. We have a low score from the vegetarian judge of an 8.0. We have an 8.9, an 8.7, a 9.1, a 9.2. Give it up for some money. That's it right there. All right, and give it up, keep it going for Jennifer.
My name is Jennifer, and I have always loved my name. When I was old enough to read, I looked up in one of those name dictionaries, and I found that Jennifer means a white phantom, a ghost, or the foam that rides upon the top of a wave as it moves out of the sea towards the land. And I like that my name means something just out of reach. But no, I was named for my great-aunt Jen. She and my great-uncle Alan had a farm in Kent in the south of England. We spent, my sister and I, a lot of time on the farm. Susan always palled around with my Uncle Alan. He let her drive the Jeep that the American soldiers left at the end of the war. He let her hold the rifle that he used to go after the foxes that went after the chickens. But I found Uncle Alan a bit brusque, so I stayed close to my great-aunt Jan. Now, I thought she was a great beauty, but when I look at the photographs now, I see she was quite broad and had almost no hair on the top of her head. But to me, she was a goddess. Every morning, really early, Auntie Jen and I would get up before all the others were awake, and we'd go out to feed the animals. And we would walk across that muddy farmyard, and I would try to place my little feet in the prints left by her old green rubber boots. We'd feed the chickens, the ducks, the turkeys, and then my favorite place. Aunt Jen would open the door to the pigsty, and I would be slapped in the face by the acrid stink of pig poop. It was my job to water the animals. I filled a galvanized bucket from the cold water tap, and all the pigs squealed with enthusiasm. When they were watered, I helped Aunt Jen to stir the bran mash. Bran, obviously, peelings from the kitchen and other stuff. We would both hold onto the wooden paddle and we would stir around and around. She'd added some hot water, I don't know where that came from, around and around, and the humble scent of bran would climb into my nostrils. After lunch, Aunt Jen and I would sit on the old horsehair couch in the farm kitchen in front of that big black range which produced so many great meals, and I would cuddle into her soft, warm side, and we would read the Farming Times together. All the people of that generation are gone, some of my generation too, but I hold them in my heart, a great crowd of them, but there is a space, a corner, just right for a big armchair, a throne fit for a goddess, my great-aunt Jen.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, we're going to keep it going, y'all. All right, for Jennifer, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up high. Doing a great job, judges. We don't have security, by the way. We do. We have a low score of an 8.5. We have a 9, a 9, a 9.2, and a 9.4. Give it up for Jennifer. All right, we are down to our final. I know you want to stay here all day, but we got other stuff to do. Final 2 tellers. Give it up for Sandra.
One of the stories I love to tell is the story of the witch of Yazoo City. She was a very powerful witch, and in 1904, she burned the entire town down. Now her grave is a tourist attraction. People come from all over to visit her grave. They want to see the broken chains. They want to see the broken monument. A year or two ago, I paid my respects to the witch of Yazoo City. I took my pictures of her grave, and then I wanted to explore the rest of this very large, very old cemetery. I drove around the circumference of the cemetery, and at the back of the cemetery there was a road leading up a hill. So I drove up the hill and was rewarded with the sight of dozens more old monuments on the side of the hill. I rode up the next hill, and the monuments disappeared. I rode up the third hill, and there was the main road out of the cemetery. The only problem was that between me and the road was a large iron gate. I stopped. I checked. The gate was locked. I was staring at the gate when a very kind woman scrambled down the hill to help me. For you see, there was a gully on one side and a cliff on the other, and there was no room to turn around. She called the police. The police hung up. I called the police. The police hung up. I called the police again. She talked to them. She told them there was a woman who needed to get out of the cemetery. They hung up. She stood by the gully, and I slowly backed up and turned around and made it back to the main part of the cemetery. And there I found not one, but 2 police officers in 2 separate cars circling the witch's grave. I think they were determined that she would not get out again.
One more time. Give it up for Sandra. That was a beautiful story, man. All right, judges, on the count of 3, 4, that wonderful storyteller. 1, 2, 3, hold them up high. We have a low score of an 8.5. We have an 8.7. We have a 9. We have a 9 and a 9.1, but give it up for Sandra. And your last teller, I know we were scheduled to go to 1:45, but you know what happened? I'm a professional. I'm kidding. They stayed on time. They did a good job. Give it up for Loren, everybody. Come on, Loren.
It was one of those glorious autumn days where the leaves came from the trees, red and yellow, through the sunlight onto the ground. And I was over at Tommy's house, and we were playing in the leaves, throwing them in the air, rolling in them. His brother, who was slightly older, was raking them with an old-style rake with iron tines, raking up piles, and we would leap into them, and once we leapt into them, we would disrupt them, and he ignored us and would rake them again. But then his girlfriend arrived. I don't remember much about her except that she had a pink sweater. She sat on the steps, and he stopped raking leaves, stopped paying attention to us. But he did something interesting. He took that rake and he put it up in the air as though he were going to rake the clouds, and he balanced it on his chin, the handle on his chin and the tines up in the air. And at that moment, it turned and came down slowly and then faster, and it hit him in the forehead. He fell to the ground, and when he came up, the tines were stuck in his head, and when he popped them off, he began to bleed. The girlfriend screamed. His mother came to the door. She saw what was happening. She screamed. She ran out, and even though she was a small woman and he was a big, long man, she grabbed him in her arms and she ran down the street calling for a doctor. The girlfriend ran after her with her hands beneath his head trying to catch the blood. Tommy and I just stood there. We had never seen anything like that before. And then I looked down and I saw the red blood on the yellow leaves, and I thought to myself, God, that's really beautiful.
Thank you, Loren. Thank you so much. All right, judges, for Loren. Great poem. Great story, sir. 1, 2, 3. We have a low score of a 8.7. A 9, a 9.3, a 9.3, and a 9.9. Give it up for Loren and all the tellers. Give it up for them, y'all. All right, what I'm going to do is, y'all, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a couple of minutes, y'all, just to make sure I double check all the stories and stuff. And while I do that, I want, John, come up here. People who have books or products, I want you to come up that were in today's Story Slam. Come up here and tell them about your stuff real quick. Anybody got any books or anything coming up that was a part? Come on up. That was a part of it. Thank you, Samika. All right. If you have something that you were in this, yeah, come on up here. All right. Go ahead,
All right. My website is Get John Hale. I'm a high-risk safety motivational speaker, as I spoke about construction today. And my book is called Zero Injuries, and it's full of stories to communicate that recognizing your priorities as your fellow worker.
Hi there, I'm John Alexander. I was in the Poetry Slam earlier. I'm a late blooming writer, but I've been prolific. Started writing poems during my quiet time in 2020, in February. 4 years ago, I have over 800 poems on quiettimerimes.com. Most of them have audio. Just feel free to go out there and enjoy them. I do have books. I've collected them into categories. I've also got two books, 365 poems in each one for each day of the week to read and enjoy, inspired. I also have children's books, chapter books, as well as picture books. So it's been a fun journey. Thank you.
So I'm Loren. Over in the festival store, I've got three of my 6 books. The 2 that I want to talk about is one is a collection of ghost stories that won the 2020 Midwest Publishers Award for paranormal fiction, and also a novel that I just put out last fall called Circus Rex, about my year in the circus.
Hi, everybody. My name's Emmanuel A. Garcia. I have one self-published book of poetry available on most online bookstores. I self-published it my freshman year of college instead of passing college algebra. It's a very small thing, a lot of high school and college stuff, but I'm still very proud of it. Only other thing I'm plugging is I'm part of an ever-growing community of poets and storytellers that take part in a weekly open mic at Bramblett's Yellow Dog Art Bar and Gallery right off the square here. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. we have an open mic where you can tell stories, read some poems, and just be weird. So look into that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, for those, yes, you got something? Real quick.
Clearly, I'm not good at this, y'all. I'm sorry. You can follow my social media on Instagram. It's unapologetically.odd. I'm writing a book soon. I'm trying to get the money to publish it, so I'm like working some stupid job right now. But it's called To Love a World That Doesn't Love Us Back.
All right, before I give our final outcome, I want to say thank you to every one of y'all. Thank you to Texas Storytelling Festival. Thank you to UNT. Thank you for all of you for coming and just trusting this process. This is our second year. We've doubled the numbers we had before. We appreciate that. We doubled the numbers that we had last year in the Poetry Slam. So before I give the scores, I'm gonna. For doing this. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So before I give that, and we're set to be out here at 1:45, I've got my own little story here. It's only like 99 seconds. I was a 99-second Story Slam champion, and I also won I wanted to take out Story Slam, and then after that, they asked me to come and be involved here. So I did the first one during COVID online, and then we started last year. We came here. It's been great. Y'all keep coming out, keep supporting. I host 6 different open mics: Frisco, Dallas, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, Lancaster, Mansfield, Fort Worth, and Arlington. All those are ongoing. Most of them are free, and it's all, I'm a member of the Poetry Society of Texas, the Fort Worth Poetry Society. I'm also a judge for the NAACP Image Awards. I'll be there next week in Hollywood. I'll be there as a voting member. I just learned that I am now being considered for a Grammy for spoken word. So there you go, right there. So I've got that. All right. So just putting in the work, y'all, and having some fun and creating these safe spaces where everybody, no matter where you are, come from. Yes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Do you feel worthy of your master's degree?
I do now. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, real quick, I don't want to hold anybody. Got some more festival stuff going on. I'll still be here mixing and mingling, but there's also something going on after this as well, around 3:30, right, Run? Yes. Tell them about it real quick. 2 o'clock. Is it something going on here at 2 o'clock?
Liars contest, 2 o'clock.
Okay, there you go. Liars contest, 2 o'clock, back in the main area, right? And then what's happening at 3:30 here, Run?
The Friends story.
Yeah, I want to run. Yes. Okay, I got you. All right, appreciate it. All right, here's my little quick. And who are you again, ma'am, over there? Your name?
Kim.
Give it for Kim, everybody. I knew who it was. I wanted you to say it, Kim. Kim, what you think about everything?
Excellent.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yes, ma'am. All right, here it is, and I'm going to get out of here real quick. It's called Love Thy Neighbor. True story. As I was moving into my new apartment, there she was. One hand on her walker and the other holding a leash attached to one of those little weenie dogs. And I could tell by the way that cigarette hung from her lips and how she followed my every move that this was not going to go well. She was always watching me, judging me, watching me. Those beady blue eyes followed my every move. We couldn't stand each other. And even though we may have obviously had our differences, our pets could care less about politics. Every day, my dog sat anxiously waiting for her little friend. And when she spotted her, the barking began. Then, what was once a battleground became common ground for my neighbor and I. And as we enjoyed the energy of two animals bonding, we started talking about life, hopes, and dreams. You know, casual COVID conversations. Hi, my name is Brenda, and this is Cassie. My name is Mike, and this is Abby. We did this every day, and our friendship grew. One day, she asked me, Mike, please pray for my mom. Her name is Jean. Well, Brenda's mom passed shortly after that. My heart went out to her. Still, our daily routine continued. And whenever I ran out of those doggy poo pickup bags, Brenda shared. And when she sees someone that we didn't know, I was right there. We decided that our pet's friendship and ours was way more important than politics. God is a genius the way he brings people together at a time when they need each other the most. At first I thought, uh-oh, not another one of those Karens. But it turned out deep down inside, she was just so caring. And this is why I love my neighbor. Here you go. All right. Having fun, y'all. All right, and I do have books over there. Y'all have some books. Listen, I'm not trying to get rich. I'm just trying to get home. All right, here we are, y'all. Remember now, we had the little time penalty thing, so if not for time penalty, things would have been different, but we have to stick to that 3-minute time, okay? All right, here we go. In 6th place with a 27.2, give it up for, take that back. In 6th place with a 27.0, give it up for Noonie. Tied for 5th place with a 27.2, give it up for Jen and Brenda. In 4th place, take that back. In 3rd place, let me get that right. Oh, in 4th place with a 27.4, after a time penalty. If not for that, you already know. Give it up for Debbie, everybody. Give it up for Debbie. In 3rd place, everybody say boo the time penalty. Boo. It's rules. All right, in 3rd place with a 27.5, give it up for Miss Vicki. In second place with a 27.6, give it up for Loren. And this year's Texas Story Slam champion with a score of 28.1 of a possible 30, give it up for Emmanuel. Hey, Garcia, y'all give it up. All right, and here to give the winning prize, give it up for Mr. Dalton, everybody.
This has become such a great event. We said trophies aren't quite enough. Some people might appreciate money. And I have a check here for $100 for our winner. Congratulations. This isn't one of those big checks. This one actually will cash. I'll put your name on it in a second. Thank you.
Y'all give one more time. Kim, you have any announcements? You have anything you want to say? Anything you want to announce real quick?
We're going to announce the winners in front of the Liars Contest right after this at 2. And, stick around. Make sure we have your contact information. Stop by the registration desk. Make sure we have your emails. And thanks so much for participating.
Thank you so much, everybody. All right, mix, mingle, gonna play some music, then make our way over there. I've got books. John has books. Stop at the table, get a card from me.